Hello and welcome back to my channel. This is Kathy with Duality Unfolding. There's a lot of stuff here. So this reading is going to be about the new season that you are entering in your life. This is kind of a general reading. We will see what comes up. But as far as the new season that you're entering, what I'm going to be pulling cards for is looking at what is coming towards you. What are you being asked to release? How are your angels, guides, ancestors, higher self, God, source, universe, supporting you as you enter this new season and kind of leave behind the old one. And then finally, I'll be pulling some cards for encouragement as you shift from the past to the future. So I have 4 groups for you to choose from. Each pile is all the cards for one of the readings. So this is group 1, group 2, group 3, group 4. So this is the back artwork for the cards, but I've also pulled crystal cards and rolled the astro dice for each group. So group number 1, your crystal card is moss agate. And the message is harmony, balance, and serenity. And then we have the the Virgo symbol, 12th house, and the planet Saturn. I'm struggling today, obviously. Group number 2, your crystal is azurite. And the message of this crystal is inspiration, understanding, and intuition. And for your astro dice, we have Gemini, the 11th house, and the planet Neptune. Got some almost like 11-11 energy going on as well with this symbolism kind of matching. Group number 3, your crystal is lepidolite. And the message of this crystal is rest, sleep, and dreaming. And your astro dice is Pisces, 1st house, and Venus. And group number 4, your crystal is selenite. And the message is cleanliness, light, and peace. And your astro dice is Gemini, 6th house, and Uranus. So I wanted to try to give you a couple options to choose from to see maybe what resonates for you. The astro dice doesn't necessarily have to be, like your sun sign or even your rising sign. Same with the planets. They don't necessarily have to correlate to some part of your astrology. But maybe the numbers help. Maybe you like to choose by your sign. Maybe you are a follower of astrology. So some of these planets mean things to you, as well as the crystals. But yeah, so take all the time that you need to choose. The timestamps are below, and then we will get into the readings to see what new season of life you are entering. Hello, group number 1. So if you chose this moss agate crystal and the Virgo 12th house Saturn astro dice, this is your reading. So I pulled tarot cards from the Good Karma Tarot for you, as well as a number of oracle cards, as you can see. And then we will look at we'll get information about what new season that you're entering. So let's look first at what is coming towards you. Oh, so we've got, I love when the imagery of different decks matches. It's just so fun to me. So we've got the Empress and Beauty. So in both cards, we have a feminine figure, very just beautiful. There's a fullness here, right? It's like this fullness of love, fullness of self-expression, fullness of comfort around being you, right? There's this openness, especially with this beauty card. She doesn't have she doesn't have any clothes on, but she's, looking in this mirror, but she's using the mirror to kind of look behind her. So the mirror isn't something she's looking in to judge her own appearance. It's almost like the world can be a reflection of other people and not a reflection of us. And then with this Empress card, she's really focused on this flower, right? Like this beautiful creation. She's also holding her belly. A lot of cards have the Empress depicted as someone that's pregnant. It's a card of just really creation and divinity and fullness and abundance in many ways. And it's almost like there's this appreciation of self, and there's also a separate appreciation for just seeing the beauty in the world around us, right? Instead of, I think for a lot of us, we can look to the outside world to see if, like, how are they judging me, or like, am I acceptable to the outside world, instead of seeing the outside world and allowing that to be a reflection of the things outside of us, instead of an external reflection of how we are being judged. I hope that makes sense. There's also with this, this Virgo rules the sixth house, which is really associated with like health, and I feel like these two cards really depict this like physical healthiness, in regards to like this kind of holding and accepting of the self, right? That like there's like a lot of, I feel like a lot of body health things in our society are very much centered around like the way that the body looks, and the things that we do to our bodies to care for them according to like certain standards of like social norms, that are kind of disguised as health. So what do I mean? That's really abstract, right? So in our society, it is healthy to go to the gym. It's healthy to kind of work out in a little bit of a competitive way, right? To do like spin classes and like, being rewarded for like really hustling and pushing and like striving. But in our culture, if you live someplace where like you choose to walk to work, maybe you don't have a choice, right? Maybe you just want to get some movement in and you decide like, I'm going to walk the 2 miles to the grocery store instead of driving, right? Walking to complete tasks, or like walking to work or walking because you don't have a car, isn't seen as healthy. It's almost seen as like not having, right? Because like we've decided based on social norms that it's normal to drive a car to work. It's normal to drive your car to the grocery store. Like it's normal to drive someone to like meet for coffee. But like, if you ride your bike, it's kind of seen as healthy, but it's also like that's not the norm. Like people don't ride their bike to work because like what if you're sweaty, and like what if I don't know, like what if it rains, and like I feel like I'm saying all this to say that like there's all these norms that we've created that have nothing to do with like what health really is, and like what is practical and not practical, right? Because like if you want to ride your bike to work because you live 5 miles from where you work, like that is very logical and it makes sense. But I think a lot of people would see it as like not something normal that they would choose to do. Just like someone that wants to walk 2 miles to work and that's their exercise, that they're exercising on the way to work instead of driving to work and then going to exercise and then coming home. So I say all that to say that it feels like what is coming towards you is a different way of seeing your own beauty, a different way of seeing like the beauty around you, a different way of understanding what it means to be healthy for you, and also allowing like the world to reflect back things to you that are the norms that it has decided on that don't really make a lot of sense, right? And I'm looking at this Saturn dice. Like Saturn is structure. Saturn is the systems that have always been. It's very much associated with like the patriarchy because it's associated with like the father. Like Saturn is father time. And it feels like, especially to this like 12th house, that's the last house in the astrological wheel associated with Pisces season, which if you're watching this card reading right now, like we are at the end of Pisces season, we're about to go into Aries season. We're about to start a new zodiacal year, literally, I think tomorrow, or maybe in a couple days. But we're at the end of, you know, we're at the end of the astrology wheel, the cycle, for this season. And so it feels like what you're moving towards is kind of releasing some of these old things in favor of determining for yourself what health is, what structure you want, like what feels best for you as far as like what it feels good to leave behind and what it feels good to move towards. And I really love that she is looking back, right? Like her posture is forward, but she's got this rear view mirror, and you know, this expression, like looking back, it's very like observant. It's not, there's no judgment, there's no fear, there's no worry. It's just like, oh yeah, that's that thing I'm leaving behind and I'm still going to move forward. Open, you know, open heart, open mind. And, you know, with this Empress just kind of focusing on like what feels good to her, like what brings joy to her, instead of looking around and worrying like is it okay that I'm doing what I'm doing. So I just love that. Okay, next we have what are you being asked to release? Oops, sorry, you can't see that. Okay, so we have the Knight of Wands and this surrender defensiveness. So Knight of Wands is about taking action, and it's pretty quick moving action. He, you know, he's got his wand and his body's facing forward, but he's kind of looking to the side. And so it feels like this is very kind of focused, intentional action. This surrender defensiveness card, it says defensiveness is a sign of weakness. To communicate in a more empowered way, stay centered and hear someone out, then offer a clear non-defensive response. Okay, so it feels like the invitation is to focus on what happened in your past that caused you to believe that you had to defend yourself. And I agree that there was a time that you needed to defend yourself, but I think you're being asked to surrender this because the thing that you needed to protect yourself from is no longer there, but it's like you're still operating under these mechanisms of like almost like hypervigilant self-protection. And so I know that this one's hard to hear, right? Because I think that like when we have been through things like because I very much like when I do the readings, I like to pick a reading for myself, and so this is the one I picked. And I very much feel this, you know, because this is something that like my mom used to tell me all the time, like, you're so defensive, you're so defensive, you're so defensive. And, you know, this is personal, but like my mom and I don't really talk because there's a lot of pain from that relationship. And it took me a long time to like learn how to have boundaries with her to the point that I could protect myself, but also not completely cut her off. But I think in the context of like a traditional mother-daughter relationship. Like we don't have that. You know, I would say that most people would consider us kind of estranged. You know, like I don't talk to her on the phone. Like I'll send a birthday card and a Christmas card. I'll send her text messages, but like the phone is hard for me because a lot of the wounding that happened between us came from her words. You know, and English is not her first language, right? And English is a very hard language. And also, like, we all have our own traumas, and communication in and of itself is really hard. Being a parent is really hard. I think that, you know, she and I have this kind of, we had some karmic soul stuff to work out in this life. And, that's hard in relationships, right? And so if that resonates for you, that you have been through that with someone, or you've been through kind of what feels like a karmic situation where it's like it's been a hard earned lesson that you've had to repeat and repeat and repeat. To me, what this feels like is, with his gaze so intentionally focused on, you know, this card, whatever beliefs that you are still holding that tell you that you need to be defensive, that you need to protect yourself, you're really being invited in this new season to start to release those and leave those behind. And so that's why I said in the beginning, like, I would highly encourage you to look at what situation happened that put the belief in your mind that you had to defend and protect yourself, you know. And for me, it's been something that was really like a lot of my childhood and a lot of like my young adulthood, and that there's been fewer years that I have been out of contact with my mother than the years that I had with her. But in the same token, like the years that I have spent out of contact with her, like it's like just not having her voice, not having her words as part of my life anymore, especially the hurtful ones. Like it's allowed there to be a lot of space for me to kind of see that even though like we don't talk, there's still a lot of her, the narrative that she kind of raised me with that still plays, that I am still working, even in my like 40s, I'm still working to like untangle, like, do I really believe that I can't trust anybody? Or is that something that she has taught me? Or do I really believe that the world is not a safe place? Or is that something that she taught me as a child that's very easily reinforced by like news and mainstream media and lots of people's perspectives, right? And so I feel like there's something for you that happened. It might be a couple somethings, but I feel like you know, and it might take a little bit of digging, not a whole lot. It's kind of really there under the surface, maybe like a light dusting of kind of looking back at like, okay, what happened that made me decide that like I had to defend myself, that I had to be hyper vigilant, that I had to be proactive in making sure that people knew that they were not allowed to hurt me. Because, you know, with this defensiveness card, like we have this geisha, but she has a samurai sword, and it almost feels like there's like this fire and the sword is fire. So it's almost like she has either, like, to me, it feels like there's this line in the sand, right? And so she's just like, that's almost like the way she presents to the world, that like, hey, nice to meet you, this is my boundary. Hi, it's great to meet you, do not cross me, you know. And I feel like that kind of is the essence of defensiveness, that like when people present with what their boundary and their defenses are, it's, I feel like out of a place, out of an energy of protection, that like that we have learned that people aren't safe. You can't trust people. There's been a repeated pattern of people that have hurt us. And so that's how we approach things, where it's like, hey, everybody's hurt me and I'm tired of being hurt. And this is my boundary. Also, this is my sword. So just putting it out there. But I feel like the hard part about that is that it doesn't necessarily serve as like a protection mechanism anymore. What it now serves as is a rejection mechanism, where like the form of protection has shifted and changed into just overt rejection of people in general. And I feel like that's rooted in that belief system that like you can't trust people, everybody wants to hurt you, like whatever some of those things are, whatever those belief systems are that have convinced you that you have to continue to protect yourself as a result of this one thing that happened. And obviously, like, this is a general reading, so I don't know what hurt you. But if you are if you are someone like me that maybe prefers to be alone, or like has been alone for a while, or you know, like you have those people that are part of your circle but they have been through some of the same things as you, it it can feel like it's easier, safer, better to be alone. But in the same token, like you have so much like beauty, and like love and light and wisdom, to share with the world. And I think that as you examine those beliefs that tell you like it's not safe to be open or that you have to protect yourself, I think you're going to see that in the time that you've spent by yourself, that you discarded, or maybe not discarded, you took for granted, because you didn't see it. You know, we take something for granted, it's because we don't notice it. But I think that like if you take stock of your capabilities in this time that you have been by yourself and like so hyper vigilant at defending and protecting yourself, what you'll see is that like the defensiveness isn't where your capability comes from. Like the defensiveness created a space for you to just kind of flourish by yourself, but you did all of that, right? That like the defensiveness in and of itself isn't where the flourishing comes from. It's almost like the defensiveness is like a greenhouse, right? That like it's covered so it protects you in the wintertime if you're a little plant, or maybe it has a door so like little pesky critters can't get in and like eat the strawberries or whatever is growing in the greenhouse. But if you know, if you are a strawberry growing in a place that has like a temperate climate, you don't need a greenhouse. Like the conditions are just good for you to grow there. And so I feel like you have cultivated a life that has really positive conditions for you to flourish and have safe connections. And so that is why you're being encouraged to really look at what happened that created this belief that you have to defend yourself. Okay, I feel like I've talked your face off about that. So now let's look at how your guides and angels are supporting you. Aww. Two of Cups. Okay, my microphone's in the way. So we've got Two of Cups, Katumi, Butterfly Maiden, and Healthy Choices. Okay, so this Two of Cups card, it can signify like love and partnership, but I feel like, you know, we have this person with like this kind of garland on her head, almost like it very much is giving like Greek goddess vibes. And so it feels like your guides, angels, like even your higher self, like there's this very intimate connection that they have with you. Like they're right there with you. Like they are so close with you. And like this reminds me of it might be like Pacific Islanders, like Samoans, Hawaiians. Maybe I just saw it in Moana, but like this, maybe I'm thinking of Eskimos also. Is Eskimo like is that a derogatory term, or is that Inuit? I don't know. I hope I didn't offend anybody because that is not what I meant to do. But this kind of touching of the faces, or even like the noses, like it feels like this very intimate, loving, like familial, like connection, right? That like, yes, Two of Cups can symbolize like romance, but to me the energy for, especially this with being your like angels and guides, that like they're always around, and like whenever you need some energetic forehead kisses, like they got you. They're right there. And that like looking at these two people, like they are looking deeply into each other's eyes, and it feels like the message I feel like is like they see you. It's like I see you. I'm always there. Like I'm always there, and I see you, and you're doing so good, and I'm so proud of you. And you know, it's like they're so close to you, and anytime you need them, like it makes me want to cry. Um yeah, it makes me want to cry because okay, I'm going to share something personal that's kind of silly, but why I love tarot. So I felt super like a lot of self-doubt for some reason was coming up before I did this reading, and felt kind of anxious in my body, like just really shaky. And I needed to make a phone call about something that is happening with my house. And I am a grown up, but there are things that like, I feel like I'm just like everybody. Like when there's something new that I have to do and there's a lot of uncertainty and I'm really scared it's going to be expensive, and it's house or car stuff, those are not my areas of expertise, right? Like emotional stuff and computers, technology, I am happy to help with that all day long, but like houses and cars, I don't know, I don't understand, but they're expensive and it makes me uncomfortable. So I was like, okay, what is this anxiety that's coming up? Pulled a card. It was a night card, so it was like, hey, you need to take action. And it was like, okay, what do I need to take action on? And I was like, is it the house stuff? And so I pulled another card, and it was the queen card of that same suit. So it was like, you're getting warmer. And it's like, okay, what happens if I don't do this right now? And then I pulled the tower card, which is like, oh my God, like tower card can be associated with like house problems. So I was like, oh my gosh, okay, so I have to call. And I was like, I don't want to do this, but like the tarot cards are telling me like I have to do this. So this is the way that I approach real world problems, is that I pull tarot cards. Like I'm ridiculous, I know it, and like I appreciate any support around that if you are also ridiculous and that this is how you make decisions on things you don't want to do, because being an adult is hard. And so called, you know, they're going to send an adjuster out. Like the lady that I talked to was very kind, you know, and it was not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Nobody yelled at me because I don't know how to do house stuff. Nobody told me I was an idiot. Like our brains tell us all this stuff, right? And so after I did this, like I just felt like, you know, I got really emotional because it was like, this was really hard. Like it was really hard to build up the courage to make this phone call, which is so crazy, but also like what about being a human being is not crazy. And so then afterwards, like I went back to the deck that I used and I flipped it over to the bottom, and it was the Empress card. And so to me, like the Empress card is very much like the Divine Mother, you know. And so it just felt like this kind of message, like my tarot cards, like my angels and guides speaking through the tarot cards were like, we are so proud of you. Like we are here with you and you did so good. And it just made me feel really warm. Like I am such a goober. Like I held my tarot card deck to my chest. Like it was, you know, like I was able to hug it or something, you know, and it was just like that feeling of, you know, like we see you and we know that it's really hard. Like we know that it is hard to be in the 3D. We know it is hard to be human, and we are always right here with you. We're right here next to you, and we're so proud of you, and you did so good. So kind of seeing this card, like it kind of brought back those same feelings. So if you are having a hard time right now, if you feel like you are just kind of alone, or kind of feeling lost, or just like not sure what is going on in your life, like your angels, guides, God, source, universe, ancestor, spirit, like all those kind of etheric, like outer realm light beings, like they're there with you. Like they just, like you just call it, ask for a hug, ask for some forehead kisses, ask for, you know, just an easy day or whatever it is that you need, right? And sometimes it's kind of hard to figure out what we need, but whatever it is, like they're with you, and they love you. Okay, thanks for letting me share that. Okay, so this Katumi card is Cloak of Wisdom, And the message is you already know the answer you seek. Trust what you know. I love that. I love that. So I feel like that really goes back to looking at like where you're headed versus where you came from. Like you're so capable now. Like you've grown and learned so much. Like you can trust yourself. You can trust yourself. Like it's almost like this is to be this, he's giving like this kind of big brother energy where it's like, hey, I'm here, but like you know what you need to do, but I'm back here if you want. Do you want me to drive you there? I'll drive you and wait in the car while you go inside and take care of whatever you need to take care of. And if you need me, I can come, but like if you don't, I'll wait out here because I know you can do it. Like that's how that feels. Butterfly maiden transformation. You are experiencing enormous change right now, which brings great blessings. Yeah. So we've got this like beautiful, almost like stained glass, like butterfly wings. She's got all these little butterflies around her. And then even like she's kind of creating this butterfly in her hands. Like it's really, I can't get close enough. It's like this kind of energetic, like wavy thing of like she's just making more butterflies, just making the transformations happen. So yeah, if you're feeling like this is a big shift that's coming, or you find yourself in a really big shift that like you are transforming it, your guides, angels, butterflies, that might be something that you start to see more of now. Especially if you see little butterflies kind of flying around, those are your little, those are like the little love notes from the universe and like your guides and angels, that they're like, hey, we're here, just want to pop in and say hi and like flitter off because that's what little butterflies do. Like especially like those little yellow ones, that kind of fly like all weird. It's like, what do you, I just saw one right now at my window. Aw. Where they're just like what are you doing? You're just living your best life. Next lifetime I want to come back as one of those, just like flying around for however long they live. Okay, and then the next message is healthy choices. Thank you, angels, for guiding me to make healthy decisions. Yeah, I feel like this very much goes with these two, this like beauty and empress card, that you are coming into this phase of just making the most healthy decisions for you. Yeah, I love it. Okay. And then lastly, we'll look at encouragement for moving from the past to the future. Okay, we've got the Six of Swords. Oh, I love this. So Six of Swords is about moving on. And we see her, she's got those six swords in her backpack and she's climbing up this mountain with her hands. So like she's just getting it. She's just going. The traditional Six of Swords is on the water and someone else is carrying the people in the boat. But I love that it's her climbing this mountain like by herself. I feel like this is just another reminder of how capable you are. That, and I feel like this can also feel like a double-edged sword, right? Pun intended, because she's got these swords. But when we are by ourselves and we're having to do what feels like everything, it can feel really like overwhelming and like inundating, and it can just like, it can feel like too much, right? And yes, we are so grateful for our angels and guides that are with us. But sometimes like as a human being, it's hard when you don't have another human being to rely on, right? Like the times that maybe like we physically don't feel good, the times that like we're having to take care of all the decision making by ourselves. And the other edge of that sword is that when we get to the top of this mountain, we have seen once again, because you're coming into the season of really learning like how capable, collecting evidence for like how capable that you are. And so I feel like once you are at the top of the mountain, or even if you're like, climbing up the mountain and you look back on like, just like he's kind of looking back like on where you came from and taking stock of like, wow, I climbed up half of a mountain and there was a point in time when I didn't even like, I could not have even like imagined walking 3 miles, and now I just climbed 5 miles up a mountain. And like, wow, look at these things that I am capable of doing. Look at these things that I enjoy doing. Look at what I'm doing. Like you you deserve credit for how much you have done by yourself, how much you continue to do. And I feel like you really deserve a lot of like praise from yourself, a lot of recognition for like how strong you are. Because a lot of people would rather stay miserable and avoid being by themselves. A lot of people would rather stay safe than like chasing a dream because they're afraid of failure. Like and you had that choice. Like you could have stayed where it was easy. And I feel like I can hear you saying like, I didn't really have a choice. You did. Like you could have chosen to stay miserable and stay comfortable where you were, where it was like easy. But the pull, right? Like you wanted something so much more for yourself that to you it feels like there was no choice. Like you could not have stayed back there. You could not have stayed, you could not have stayed unhappy. Like you could not have lived like that. So to you there was no choice. You had to, figure out how to do the hard things by yourself. But I just want to remind you that it is a choice and that many people choose to stay in what's easy, even if they're unhappy, and that like you have chosen to do the harder thing because you have such a pull towards like finding your own happiness, making your own happiness, like building your own life. And I feel like that is such a powerful thing that I need you to give yourself lots of credit for that. Like this, you don't hear it very often, but there's a lot of people that have seen what you do and they're like, wow, I could never have done that. And to you, it's like, well, I mean, when you have to do stuff, you have to do it. And it's like, yes, but no, like you really didn't have to. We don't have to do anything. Like we don't have to keep pushing for growth. We don't have to keep chasing our dreams. We don't have to leave an unhappy situation, right? And so just understanding that like you have a different perspective than a lot of people, that that you deserve your own praise for how hard you have worked to get to where you are, and also to continue to keep moving away from the things that are not aligned for you, because you're wanting to move towards the things that that you deserve, that are just really fulfilling for you. So yeah, I just had to say that. And then, this is the last oracle card. I lovingly accept myself. What? Come on. It's so good. I love it. So this group number 1 has been your reading on this new season that you are entering into. And I love this for you. Like, this is just it's like so much good stuff, so much love and support, like so much self-love and self-support, so much self-acceptance, so much strength, and really so much intention for continuing to, love yourself and continuing to grow. Moss agate is like one of the first crystals that I ever got for myself. It's associated with the heart chakra, and it has to do with kind of healing the heart chakra. So if that resonates for you, and you like crystals, maybe you want to look up more about moss agate, maybe you want to buy some moss agate, maybe you just want to wear some more green. Got a lot of kind of green in here, so that could be a really positive like power color for you. But yeah, group number 1, this has been your reading on the new season of life that you are entering. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to say thank you so much for letting me read your cards. And also thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. If you enjoyed this reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I'd love to hear which part you enjoyed the most, or even just which pile you chose. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. And I wish you a beautiful, blessed new season that you're coming into. And I will see you later. Bye. Hello, group number 2. So if you chose this azurite crystal and the Gemini 11 and Neptune astro dice, this is your reading. So I have pulled cards for you from the Animal Tarot, as well as a number of oracle cards. So let's look at what is coming towards you in this new season. Okay, so we have the Seven of Pentacles and family. Okay, oh, and there's little eggs in this nest. I can't, you guys. I love it. I love it. And then there's like, look at this. It's, just 4 people or 4 crows in this picture, 4 people. Yeah, I don't know if you're trying to have a little one, if you're trying to adopt, if you're trying to foster, if you're trying to find your soul family, like this is coming. It feels like you've had to be really, really patient and wait for this to come. Seven of Pentacles is, it can be a card that kind of represents a little bit of impatience or like having to wait. And even with this, like, these eggs, oh, one of them's broken. So we can see one's broken and we don't see a little baby coming out yet. So if you have been trying to build a family, grow a family, it might be something that has taken you multiple attempts. And I feel like I don't have kids, I've never wanted to have kids, but I have people in my life that have, lost little ones, that have been pregnant and they lost the baby, or even, like stillbirth. So it feels like I can feel like if this resonates for you, if you have lost little ones, like I can feel the heaviness, right? The hurt and the heaviness. And I just want to say, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine like how much courage it takes to try, after that. And how much healing is needed, to overcome, the fear around that. So I just want to acknowledge that, like, if that is you, and you're continuing to try, I just want to say that, like, I see your courage. Like, in like the reading for group number 1, like we talked about how it's easier not to try sometimes, and that maybe you don't feel that way, right? That it's almost like there's a pull, there's a draw, there's a need for family, and that like the not trying hurts more than the trying and the loss. So I feel like there's a need to say that, like maybe somebody needed to hear that, or maybe that just is how you're feeling. And I feel like that same feeling can resonate for people that struggle to have close familial connections, like deep, intimate, nurturing connections with other people. That, like, if there's a lot of loneliness that you've dealt with, a lot of disconnection that you've dealt with, like sometimes, yes, there's pain in that, but sometimes like continuing to be in that and not try is more painful than like attempting to connect and like not being successful. So I just want to acknowledge that in both ways. And sorry, I'm looking at this card because what caught my eye is this part, and I think that it's supposed to be a fence, but I can't really tell. But also, like, it reminds me of, like a grave marker, right? So if that resonates for you, that like maybe you have experienced loss with a family member, you've lost your family, you've lost someone in your family, this new season that you're coming into is very much about like either a new sense of family or new family members. And this could come in lots of forms. It can be pregnancy. If so, congratulations. That's exciting. Who doesn't like a baby? I mean, I'm not, like I don't want kids, but like I do. Babies are funny. They're adorable. And that's always like exciting, right? That babies, like people love a baby. So it's a big deal, right? New beginnings, like new developments, meeting people that you feel like are your soul family, having family stuff like resolve, reunions with family, even if that's like going on a trip to see your grandma. I feel like in this new season of life, like you've been waiting a long time for this familial kind of connection in whatever way that looks like for you. And that is what's coming in, And so, you have had to be patient and you've been waiting. And as someone that is also impatient, I get how hard that is. But I love that, like this is the card that follows. This is what's coming in. So this is really, really beautiful. Just looking at these, like this Gemini in 11th house and even the Neptune, like, Gemini is, it's a very like social sign, very intelligent, talkative, social. 11th house rules are like family and not family, sorry, our friends and like acquaintances, connections, like the people that, kind of that we connect with in like this kind of outside world, communities, and so for some of us, like, especially if you don't want a traditional family with kids, or like maybe you didn't grow up with like the best like family childhood background, that like those friends can become like family, those communities can feel like family, and with this Neptune, there's this kind of like dreamy element to Neptune. I feel like Neptune can be really like deep ocean, and it's like once you get really deep, it's hard to see, right? It's hard to see like what's happening. And so like sometimes Neptune can be about a little bit of like disillusionment. So if you are someone that has kind of felt yourself like falling into the dark places like while you're waiting, if like that kind of hopelessness and sadness and like those really hard deep feelings have been coming up, I think that is definitely part of the human experience, but that kind of helps us to gauge like what is valuable to us, right? Where I talked about in the beginning that like sometimes the pain of not trying is worse than the feeling of pain that comes from a loss from trying. So yeah, I just wanted to talk through that part of it. Also, like the Gemini in the 11th house, like they both look like 11s, and this crystal card is talking about intuition and understanding. So you might have had a feeling that like this was coming, and if so, like that's really beautiful. Or even just knowing that like this was going to happen, that there's no way that this could not happen, like knowing it in your bones that it's coming for you. The next card that we have is what you are being asked to release. Ooh, okay, so I like this. So we've got the Emperor. We have this elephant that is there by themselves, and so the Emperor card is really a card about like autonomy and power and kind of being the boss, being in charge. But also like the Emperor does have, an Empress, but each of those cards is very much like almost solitary in a way. There are some decks that have the depiction of the Emperor and the Empress together. But when we look at like kind of more natural partnership cards, it's like Four of Wands. It's when we have like two cards that are like part of the suits, right? Like a king and a queen, or like a queen and a knight, or a knight and a page. And so with the Emperor, this is very much about like figuring out like who you are as just yourself, right? Because I think as people, like we kind of as humans, in societies, like we learn things through contrast. Like, what does it mean to be a man is very much defined by what it means to be not a woman, right? And so I think with like a lot of like the gender things, that are changing, and like gender norms being kind of re-examined and released, and like gender fluidity, and like people identifying as like non-binary, because it's like, well, I don't feel like I fit into either one of these. Like, what does it mean to be a woman? Maybe it means to be like feminine and to have babies, and it's like, I'm not those things. So like, does that mean I'm not a woman? It's like, well, no, being not a woman means you're a man. And it's like, well, that also doesn't make sense, because like I don't identify as a man. So it's like we learn through contrast and comparison, like what this is and what it's not, right? That's kind of been the way that we learn a lot of things that we're socialized to, and even things like in the natural environment, right? That we learn like what hot is in comparison to what cold is. But I say all that because this Emperor card, like you have learned what it means to be who you are by yourself, and you're coming into a time that you're learning how to be in community and with others. And so this surrender to your full power card says your life is calling for you to step into your full power rather than playing it small. In some ways it feels like you've learned everything that you can learn by yourself, and that like for you to continue to grow and learn and really kind of reach your soul purpose and like your own purpose in life, you need family, you need community, you need other people to do that. But also, it feels like for a long time, you chose to stay by yourself because it felt safer and easier. And I say that because of this playing it small. That like when we are by ourselves, like there's a very high level of like control that we can assert over our own lives. And so that means that there's a very low risk, right? And so like when we are doing things based on like minimal risk, that's really playing small. And so you're being encouraged to stop doing that, to stop limiting yourself, to stop trying to control for safety, which is really how we're conditioned. Like I don't say that with any judgment. Like you can just watch the news. If you don't believe that like we are conditioned to like identify control as what it means to be safe, like just watch the news, right? Because everything is about like showing you all the scary stuff to try to control your behavior and to try to prevent you from like going out in the world to see if that's really what's happening or not. So you're surrendering the belief, it feels like the habit of being solitary as a means of like being safe, and that you can be soft and strong, that you don't have to be bossy or harsh. You don't have to like roar the loudest to be acknowledged as strong. That like your strength doesn't come from the way that you demonstrate it to people. Like it's energetic. Like people can tell that you are strong just by interacting with you. Like they don't need to see you display your strength for them to acknowledge that you're strong. So I don't know if that resonates, that maybe like there's some things that happened in the past where you had to really kind of assert your strength or kind of demonstrate that you're not the person to mess with, but like you don't have to do that anymore. You don't need to do that. Like when you see an elephant, the elephant doesn't have to prove that it's strong. Like we know that elephants are strong, possibly based on reputation, but definitely based on like the size that they are in comparison to us. Like if you've ever had the amazing pleasure of meeting an elephant in real life, like it's hard to explain like how big they are, but also like how gentle they are. And I feel like that's the energy that you're embodying. Like you don't have to like blow your horn. You don't have to like rush at people to prove that you're strong. Like you can just stand there and be in your strength, in your presence. So next I have how your angels and guides are supporting you. So I've got this Four of Cups. Okay. And then the Divine Director, Coventina, and Shine Your Light. Okay. So this Four of Cups, interesting. There's only 3 cups in this picture though. Like, I guess this is a cup that's holding this, I do not know what this little guy is, but this little magical guy. So I think this might be a 4th cup. 3 of Cups is about like celebration, coming together, like support, like it's like 3 friends that are coming together to like celebrate something. And this is the 4 of Cups. So we've got this 4th cup like up in the sky, and it almost feels like your spirit guides are the ones that are bringing these people to you. These people that are going to celebrate you, these people that like are cheering for you, like these 3 of Cups, like friendships, connections, like this 3 of Cups very much feels like a family in a way, like a sisterhood or a brotherhood. I feel like this little guy is like he's kind of hidden in his little shell. I don't think this is a shrimp. It might be a shrimp. It doesn't look like a shrimp. I can't see his tail, but we can see the face. Kind of looks a little shrimpy. But like this being kind of like curled up and enclosed, it almost feels like it's not here yet. It is coming, but this family is coming. It's just not here yet. It's almost like it's not ready yet. It's not, because I feel like, like this curled up thing, like you can't move, the shrimp can't move when it's curled up. And if you've ever seen like a shrimp swim, like they extend themselves, right, and they're kind of moving, so it's almost like it's not ready to go yet, and like when it's ready to launch, which doesn't make, I know the verbiage doesn't make sense, but when it's ready to launch, then like it will happen, but it's not there yet. So this feels like your angels and guides are saying like, yes, your family is coming, but like we need you to be a little bit more patient still. Like we're getting everything, we're getting things arranged, like we're getting things lined up, we're trying to gather everybody, we're sending out the invitations, we still have to reserve the venue, we have to figure out who's going to make the cake, so we have to do some cake tasting. Also, what kind of food you don't know what kind of food you want, what's everybody's schedule look like? So it's like almost like this is like the universe is still doing the party planning, so like just you got to give it a little bit of time. So if you can be patient with your angels and guides as they plan this like amazing family party for you. Yeah, and this feels to me like if you are trying to have a baby, keep at it. Like it's coming, but just keep practicing. If you're trying to adopt and it feels like it's taking a long time, like things are still happening, it's just behind the scenes, it's not you, like just it's your team is working on it. They're working on it, I promise. So we've got the Divine Director, intervention and purpose. The message is divine intervention is occurring. Know that you are being guided. Happiness is your purpose. I can't, come on. So this guy is trying to get things in order for you. He's like, hold on. He's like, I got to talk to the manager. And like, we'll get this taken care of. Then we've got Coventina with purification. It is time for a cleansing detoxification of your body and your mind. Okay. So, this feels like to me, if you are trying to have a baby, there's some detoxing that needs to happen, and take that as it resonates for you, right? That we all kind of know the things that we need to detox from. It could be like maybe even the people that you talk to, like that maybe some conversations that you've had with people are a little bit toxic and you don't feel as confident after you talk to them. That's maybe a sign that you might need to detox from them. And that detox can mean like not talking to them, or the detox can mean like letting them know like, hey, I know that you have the best intentions, but when you share things like this with me, it puts me in a not great headspace. And I know that you care about me, and that's why I'm asking you to just kind of keep those opinions to yourself, or whatever feels right. Like this detoxification could be worrying about the past, like it could be eating habits or like sleeping habits or any of those things. Like I feel like you know the things that you need to detox from. And if you don't know, then you can ask your angels and guides to kind of show you or give you a nudge, give you a little confirmation about what it is. And then lastly, we have Archangel Uriel with Shine Your Light. Thank you, Uriel, for helping me to share my light with the world. Yeah. And then with this family, we've got this full moon. So it's like this bright light of illumination. He's got this sun behind him. Like there's very much like this balance, right? That like your soul family, your soul tribe is like it's like this perfect complement to your light. We've got the sun and the moon, which are like they're complementary. There's a interdependence that they have, right? That like if we only had the sun, it would chemically kind of, like biochemically kind of mess us up, right? Because we need rest, but it's hard to sleep when the sun's bright because our bodies, like the chemicals are, affected by like whether we have enough sleep or not. And then, if it was always dark, if it was always nighttime, like we would be out of balance then. So like this complementary energy between, you and your soul family, it just feels really, really lovely. And then lastly, we have encouragement for shifting from the past to the future. And we have this Knight of Pentacles. We have this little bumblebee, kind of creating this beehive here. Knight of Pentacles, he is the slowest moving knight. And so this feels like take your time. Take your time. Like there's no rush. This Seven of Pentacles, like I mentioned in the beginning, like this is a card of impatience. The Knight of Pentacles is not slow moving because he's slow. He's very intentional. He's very deliberate. Like he's, to me, the Knight of Pentacles is the farmer. And, if you've ever tried to grow anything, especially like food, or really even like flowers or anything like that in a garden, then that like there's so many elements that kind of go into it, right? That like you can't just throw some seeds on the ground and expect for nature to do all of it, right? That like there's, whatever you're growing, like it's going to need a certain type of soil. Is that the soil that exists where you're at? Like you can't throw seeds on a sidewalk and expect for the strawberries to grow out of that. Like it doesn't really work that way. Like there needs to be the right soil conditions. There needs to be the right nutrients, the right amount of sun, the right amount of water, maybe even a little bit of protection. If you've got like maybe some kind of bugs or like birds that eat those seeds. So the Knight of Pentacles being this farmer, like there's a lot of things that he takes into consideration when he is farming, when he is taking, making his plans and making his movements. And it's not happenstance, it's not just like good luck that he grew a whole field of like wheat. That's not really how it works, So I feel like the message of encouragement is that like it takes time, and that like the times that you feel like it's moving too slow, you are on the right track. You're on the right track, and that like there's this understanding that there is impatience, but it's coming, not ready yet. These guys, especially this guy, he's working on it. But that, like there is a divine plan in place, and that all good things come to those who wait. So kind of understanding just that farming, that plant growing analogy. Yeah. And so finally, we have I am a light in the world. I mean, come on. Come on. Shine your light. You're a light in the world. Like, come on. This moon. Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay, so group number 2, this has been your reading about the new season that you are entering. So I hope that you enjoyed this reading. I just want to say thank you for letting me read your cards. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. I'd also love to hear which pile you chose, like if there's any part of the reading that you especially enjoyed. But yeah, mostly thank you so much for being here. If you are a subscriber, thank you so much for coming back and watching these videos and like hanging out with me. So yeah, I hope that you have a beautiful, blessed next season, and I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 3. So if you chose this Lepidolite card and the Pisces first house Venus Astro Dice, this is your reading. So I have pulled tarot cards for you from the Tarot of the Divine, as well as all these oracle cards. So let's look at the first part of your reading, which is what is coming toward you. Okay, so we have the High Priestess in reverse and this inspiration card. So let me flip this little lady upright. Okay, so High Priestess is a card of intuition, connecting with the divine, like kind of being between both worlds. With this card coming up reversed, it almost feels like you don't see yourself that way, that like you okay, so sorry, what came through was that like you are entering the season of understanding that you are a light worker, and you might go through like a spiritual awakening. You might go through just something that changes your perspective from believing that this is only other people and that this is not you, that you are not intuitive, you don't understand how to be intuitive, like you don't know what it means to be a light worker, like that's too big, that's too much. Like I feel like there can be like a lot of apprehension that comes out of this, just kind of hearing this, right? Not going through this new season. I think that this new season is going to be very much like showing you that you've always been intuitive, and that you just didn't realize that that's what it was. And I say that because of this Pisces. Pisces is one of the most intuitive psychic signs. Like Pisces is ruled by the 12th house, which is very much about like spirituality and like the dream world, and like just very just deep spirituality. And then we've got this first house dice, this number 1. So first house represents the self. And then Venus. Venus is this, energy of our worth, the things we find beautiful, abundance, love. But it feels like love in the sense of like not romantic love, but like really understanding, especially like the Venus and the Pisces together. Like Venus likes being in Pisces, like it's a very positive sign for her to be in. But this Venus and Pisces energy is very much about like deep spiritual love, like almost like philosophical, energetic love. Like what does it mean to embody love? Like what does it feel like to have the energy of love and feel it towards another that like you have no connection with? Like I feel like that's this really kind of big energy, this like big sense of like spirituality and like I want to say magic because I don't know another word to use for it. It's very much like a holy, loving divinity. And I hope I hope that makes sense, because I feel like those are very like abstract terms, but that's also Pisces. Like Pisces I feel like is just very abstract. It's like Pisces is like the deep, deep, deep ocean, and if you've ever watched like those like nature documentaries, like when they do like the really deep ocean dives, and like you see the animals and like the creatures and things that happen. It's like, what is that? Like, it looks so weird, but then it's like you learn why they look like that and why they are like that and how they've adapted. And it's like, oh, it's not as like scary and kind of like ugly as I thought when I first saw it. Like, oh, it makes sense. Like, I see why it's that way. And it's almost like that is, it feels like that is the spiritual season that you're moving into, where like in some ways like it's hard for your brain to kind of grasp it, but then it's like you're gonna have these moments, like kind of tangible moments, where you'll be able to reflect back on things and realize like, oh, I've been using my intuition this whole time, like I didn't know that. Like, so I think hearing that like you're coming into the season of like deepening your intuition and really understanding that you are a highly intuitive person and that you are a light worker, like hearing that is like, whoa, like what am I supposed to save the planet? Like, I don't know what that means. That is not what that means. Are you supposed to read tarot cards? I don't know. Maybe not. And it kind of doesn't really matter, because like the season that you're coming into is really like learning about who you are as a high priestess, like learning about who you are as an intuitive person, and also learning how to integrate your humanness into that. And that like there are things in the tangible, like real world that don't really translate so well to defining this, right? That like I know for me that I I am also this. I'm highly intuitive and that I'm a light worker. Do I introduce myself that way? No. Like I would not introduce myself and be like, hello, I am a light worker. Like, no, I don't call myself that. I don't use that language. But like when I'm, learning things or like listening to other spiritual teachers and they talk about that, it's like, oh, I know you're talking about me. It's kind of like, okay, this is a perfect example. I'm Kathy, like that's the name I go by, but I don't refer to myself that way, right? It's not like Kathy's gonna do a tarot card reading today, or like Kathy has to make some phone calls. Like that's not how I refer to myself. I refer to myself as like I am going to do a tarot card reading today, or like I am going to wash the dishes. So it feels like you're learning how, like, that's what the integration is, right? That like you're not going to start telling people I'm group number 2 and I'm highly intuitive, or I'm group number 2 and I'm a light worker. It's something that you'll know inside of yourself, because really that's the only way that like true knowing comes in, and that's really the only thing that's needed for true knowing. Like, because I can tell you that you are highly intuitive. I can tell you that you've always been highly intuitive and you just didn't know it and didn't see it, and you might not believe me. And for me to tell you that, it doesn't matter. But for you to see those things in this next season of your life, to see the ways that you are intuitive and the ways that your individual intuition works, that's where the integration happens. Because everybody's intuition is different. Like as you like learn about things, like there are people that like that talk about being psychics, and it's like there's not just one type of psychic, and then you've got people that are mediums, and then you have people that are like intuitives, and like there's all these different ranges of things that kind of get lumped together but are not the same at all, and so it's like that's the season that you're coming into, is kind of learning these things that like what you think intuitive people do, or what you think light workers do or are, is going to be very different than the type of intuitive and the type of light worker that you come to know yourself to be. But over this next season, like that's what you're learning. So that's exciting. I'm excited for you. I also love that it has like this rest, sleep, dreaming message with the lepidolite, because Pisces is very much associated with like sleep and dreaming. So you might want to just make sure that your sleep hygiene is good, that you're getting enough sleep. If you don't know how much sleep you need to get, like maybe kind of figuring that out for yourself. If you do know how much sleep you need, like making sure that you're getting that sleep. because we're in Pisces season, it might be different when you're watching this, but Pisces season is when we do a lot of work in our sleep and our dreams, that like there's a lot of energetic spiritual work that can happen while we're dreaming and sleeping. So if you've been having some kind of crazy dreams, or sleep's been a little bit weird or kind of crazy, like that's just a message that you're right where you're supposed to be. And then also that, sleep is important, and that if you want to do any kind of like spiritual learning, growing, shifting during this new season, that you can do that in your dream time, that you can let your guides, angels, your subconscious know that like, okay, as I go to sleep tonight, like I would like to work through some stuff in the dream realm. So that, I have more time in my waking life to kind of integrate it and like understand it and practice it, instead of trying to do all the work in the time that we are awake, while we're also like doing our regular jobs and like living our lives and feeding ourselves and all the driving and traffic, all the things that we do. So just a little something for you. Okay, so next, what are you being asked to release? So we have this Ace of Cups and surrender to rest and sleep. Okay, with this being in the reverse, I feel like it's you definitely are being encouraged to look at your sleep. So let's read this one first. So it says, to prevent burnout, slow down, honor your need for quiet time and peaceful sleep to rejuvenate your mind, body, and spirit. Yeah. So if you have not been dedicating enough time to sleep and rest, and sleep is not the only way that we can rest. You might just be doing too much, and like you maybe just kind of need to slow down. This Ace of Cups card is typically, the Ace of Cups is about the universe bringing in love to us, but for this, especially with this card, this surrender to rest and sleep, what it feels like is that you are being asked, you're being urged to pour into your own cup. So if you are someone that has been taking care of everybody else, and that could include like a job, that could include obligations. And so for some reason, like what came up in my mind around obligations is like, I have to go to the gym because I feel like I have to, instead of like, oh, I'm going to go to the gym today because like I always sleep better when I get some movement at the end of the day. Or like I have to go to the gym because like I ate too much at Christmas. Like that's obligation energy. But then like, well, I need to go to the gym because I know I always feel better after I have a run when I've had a bad day. That feels much more aligned in like self-care. And so this, this Ace of Cups for you very much feels like how like you have to pour into your own cup. How are you doing that? How are you not doing that? How are you giving from your cup to others instead of from the overflow? And so when we look at this cup, like there's no extra that's coming out, right? Like the liquid that's being poured into this cup is what is needed. There's not extra to give to someone else. And so that feels like the thing that you're being encouraged to release as you come into this new season, is to be much more intentional about taking care of yourself first. Yeah. Which feels like, it feels a little bit hard to, it feels a little bit hard. It feels like there's resistance in hearing that, in receiving that. And so, to me, what that says is that there's a lot of obligation around what you are supposed to give to others. So you might have like relationships with people that take more than they give, and that when you don't give what they expect, there's some guilt that happens. And that I just feel the need to remind you that we are all responsible for taking care of ourselves if we are adults who are capable, right? Like if you have people in your life that have disabilities or that require additional care that they can't give to themselves, or like if you have kids, like that's not what I'm talking about. Like what I'm talking about is maybe like a parent that will guilt you if you don't hang out with them on Saturday at like 7 a.m. When you really want to sleep in because your body's tired because you had a long week at work. Friends that kind of guilt you into going out when you don't really want to go out. This could even be like someone that you're dating or a partner that expects for you to just kind of do what they want. And you feel like it's not okay for you to say what you need. So, whatever it is that's keeping you from getting rested, getting adequate sleep, whatever it is that's burning you out, like you're really being encouraged to release that, to include habits of like giving more to others than giving to yourself. Next, we have how your angels and guides are supporting you. Okay, so we've got 7 of Wands in reverse, Mercury, Ishtar, and Spirit Animal. Okay, so with this 7 of Wands in the reverse, this is the upright. Like, in the reverse, it feels like there is there's a lack of boundaries. In the upright, the 7 of Wands is about kind of protecting oneself, like putting up a boundary, putting up a way to kind of fortify the space in front of them, right? He's got this hammer up and he's going to be driving these stakes into the ground using, another stake that's got the hammer on the end. And, this light is behind him. It's like in support of him. And so to me, the message that I feel like your guides are sending is that like you're not able, you haven't been doing the things to fortify yourself and your needs, and so boundaries. I saw boundaries there. So they're really asking you to take action around taking care of yourself and taking care of your needs. And these are the ways that they're supporting you. So we've got Mercury with open communication, get a weight off your chest, speak up with love and be heard. So kind of talked about this here with the obligation that like, Mercury is here to support you in communicating your needs with others. If you feel like you are not sure how to do that, you can call on this guide, this angel of Mercury, and asking him, how do I say things with love? I don't know how to say this with love because I'm tired and I'm mad and I feel taken advantage of, or like, how do I speak up for what I need? And that could even include, like showing you some of the lessons, or like just showing you the times that you feel like you're not allowed to ask for your needs. Because I feel like this is the struggle to ask for what we need. I feel like is very, very common. It's a very common thing that everybody deals with because we live in a society where it's very much about the other, right? That like, if you want for people to love you, you have to do things for them first. If you want to get ahead in your career, you have to do extra first. And it doesn't leave space or like really even encourage self-care, which is very much what communicating our needs is about. Whether it's saying like, hey, I need to get more sleep tonight because I'm just not feeling well. So like, I'm sorry, I can't go out with you guys. Or even just like not explaining and just saying, I need to stay in. I want to stay in. Not even I need to. Like, I want to, like, whatever that language is, like, or like, I don't want to go. I want to stay home. Like, that's what I need. I need to be on my couch in my comfy clothes, instead of out with people that I don't want to be around. So then we have Ishtar with boundaries. And this message is love yourself enough to say no to others' demands on your time and energy. So literally what we were talking about before. And then finally, we've got spirit animal. Thank you, animal kingdom, for blessing my path with love. Okay, so you might have pets. And I feel like if you do have pets, they, especially if you have more than one pet, or even if you just have one, they're really good about boundaries. So like, Ben does not like hugs, but there are times when I'm like, let me hug you. I'm gonna hug you. I talk to him in that weird voice. I'm like, let me hug you, and sometimes he'll let me pick him up and like kind of hug him and like rub his belly. And then there's other times when he absolutely does not want to be hugged. And so if I do the hugging posture like this, then he like will run off. Right. And so it's a hard boundary that like, that I know that he doesn't like hugs. And there's times that he's like, hey, I will let you hug me because you're my mom and you're weird. And then there's other times he's like, it's a hard no. Like, I do not want to be hugged right now. I just want to have my neck scratched. No hugs. And he'll run off. So I feel like animals are really great teachers of boundaries, and that also caring for themselves, that like there's a lot of times that Ben wants to play and Brandy does not. And so if he tries to play with her, like she will warn him. She'll give him a growl. She'll give him a hiss. And then, if he won't leave her alone, then like she'll end up biting him, or scratching him or doing something, because it's like she's given him 3 warnings. I don't want to play. And then there's other times that like when she's okay with playing, like maybe he'll jump on her and she'll hiss, but then she'll run off and then they'll play, And so I feel like animals are really, really just good about showing us, demonstrating boundaries, right? There's not a conversation. Brandy is not like, hey, these are the rules for when I want to play. It's either like, okay, do you want to play? And she's like, no. Big no. Like you got one more chance, and then I'm gonna jack you up. And so if you have animals around you, like they can be really great teachers of boundaries. If you don't have pets, I'm sure this is still easy to understand, like if you watch any nature documentaries, but if you don't have pets, I feel like you're also being encouraged to kind of pay attention to the animals that you see. And as you're, entering this chapter of like spiritual development, spiritual learning, spiritual awakening, I would encourage you, if there is an animal that you notice a lot of, just Googling like spiritual meanings for whatever animal. So, there's certain animals that like I will see a lot at certain times. So the times that I need to like really focus more on self-love, I will see cardinals. I'll see cardinals a lot. Or if it's my stepdad sometimes, cause he's passed, sometimes he'll just like pop in as a cardinal and like, oh, look, it's Tim. You want to say hi. Dragonflies, like when I was going through like a big spiritual up-leveling, I saw dragonflies a lot right before I had like a really kind of big like chapter of growth in my life. I was seeing a lot of dragonflies, and dragonflies they symbolize living, like being in the world but not of it, because they are like kind of spanning between 2 worlds also, because dragonflies are born in the water, but once they hatch and their wings are strong enough, they fly and they don't ever live in the water again. They'll go back to the water, like they'll be on the water, but they never live under the water like they did when they were little eggs, before they like hatched. And so it's like, to me, that was like a big part of like my spiritual growth and learning, that like, okay, I'm in the military, but I'm a deeply spiritual person. And what does it mean to navigate 2 worlds at the same time? And I learned that because like I kept seeing them and I would like Google, like, what does this mean? So I feel like there's messages in all these animals have messages. Like I have a friend that she refers to it as animal medicine. But I feel like this is just an encouragement to kind of look at that as well. If you see a certain animal a lot, to kind of look up the spiritual meaning and just be open to the messages that they have for you. And I think it's also like just a fun way to learn about to learn about animals. Like there's lots of things that like uh the websites, like, because I feel like there's quite a few, but you'll kind of see the ones you resonate with. And it's like some of them, like they just offer like a lot of really good information about, those animals. It's like, well, I didn't know that about deer. Like, oh, that's cool. Or like one thing I learned about cardinals is that when cardinals pair up and when the mama cardinal lays the eggs, the daddy cardinal, the chemical, his body will stop making or reduce making the chemical that makes his feathers really red. And so they'll go to a brown. So if you see two cardinals together and one's like a little bit more red than the other, then that is the male that's partnered with the female, which I feel like is so adorable because it's out of protection, right? That like red is like such a pronounced color, but like he doesn't want to be seen when he's trying to take care of his babies because he's a good dad. He doesn't want the predators to come and come mess with his family. So those are the fun things that you learn when you really start to be on your spiritual journey. So yeah. Okay. And so finally, we have a card of encouragement as you're shifting from the past to the future. So we've got the Strength card in reverse, which we are going to put upright. Look at her. Look at this girl holding this. What is this? This is like a lion alligator. This is, oh, and he's also like, what is, I don't even know what this is. I don't know what kind of animal this is. Is this like a bear? He's got a little bear hiney, a lion body and mane and alligator face. And she's like, I got you. You're my baby pet. So we got the Strength card and then I trust my gifts. Okay. So what I am getting from this Strength card is that you are, one of the things with the Strength card, in the traditional Strength card, we have a woman that's forcing open the mouth of a lion. Here we have this young woman that's forcing close the mouth of the alligator. But one of the things with the Strength card can be about forcing things that trying to control things. And in spirituality, like there's no space for control, right? It's like control is a mechanism of like this kind of human experience in the 3D, but control comes from this need for safety because things are unpredictable or uncertain. In the realm of spirituality, like deep spirituality, as you're moving into, your high priestess, like there's not a need for control because the high priestess is so tapped into her intuition and her connection with source that she intuitively knows what needs to be done, or she intuitively knows that she will be okay, or she intuitively knows that this is not a good situation, she needs to get out. Her own divinity, her connection to the divine, her intuition is there for her to tap into, to know what to do. So there is no uncertainty. There is no need for control. And it feels like the encouragement that you're being offered as you shift out of the past and into this like new season of like learning what spirituality is for you and like who you are as a spiritual being, is that in the times that you feel the need to control things, that's a sign for you to really lean in, take time, spend time in your spiritual practice. If you don't yet have one, if you don't, because it feels like you're new to this, like there's so many, like for some people meditation is a really big spiritual practice. For some people, like yoga, some people it's tarot, some people it's like spending time in nature, some people it's like praying and chanting, journaling. A spiritual practice is anything that helps you to connect to your spiritual beliefs, your spiritual guides, the divine, whatever it is that you call it. It can be reading, it can be learning. I think for me, in the times that like I don't know what to do and I really, really need like spiritual guidance, I go to tarot, because this is for me, this is the easiest way for spirit to communicate with me. The times that I want to make a big change in my life, like a change of beliefs, a change of habits, I go to meditation, because that is the thing that works for me for like really internal, subconscious, energetic change. So there's not just a one and done. There's not like a one size fits all. Like as you grow and change in your spiritual journey, like you're going to find different tools that work. And like, you might end up having a tool belt of tools where it's like, you know, like with real tools, like you can't use a hammer for everything, right? It's like, you know, you can use a hammer on a screwdriver, but it's also like, that's not really why the piece of furniture came with screws, right? If they just needed to be hammered in, it would have been nails, but like screws are a little different, you know? So understanding that like you can collect the tools that you need and use the tools that you need for whatever you need to use them for. Everybody is different. So in the times that, you know, you're in this new season and you feel like there's a struggle to control things, that's a natural part of it. You know, like change is hard because there's an uncertainty, and you've been taught for a long time that controlling things is how you create certainty. And if you can remember, just allowing that to be a reminder that when you feel the high need to control things, that's a little nudge to spend time in your spiritual practice. Also, as I talked about, like this little creature looks very strange, different, right? As you grow in your spirituality, you might start to look kind of strange to the people around you. And there may even be people that try to control your behavior as you come into your new spiritual practices. And that like that is just an indicator that they're struggling with the uncertainty. They're struggling with the change. And it's not a sign that you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you're bad. It doesn't mean that you need to stop doing what you're doing. I think one of the hard things to learn about human beings is that like their behavior is a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of us. And I think it's hard because we put a lot of value in other people's opinions, like when we care about them. And I can remember like when I first started sharing with my family that I read tarot, like my brother doesn't care. He's just like, cool, whatever, you know, like super accepting. My dad was very confused for a while, and he thought that it meant that I have to let him read my cards, or let me read his cards. And I was like, no, I don't like it. I'm not going to force a tarot reading on you, because not everybody is into it, right? And like if it's not something that's going to be helpful to you, like why would you do it? You know, it doesn't work that way, you know. But also if you want one, I'm happy to offer you one. But if you never want one, like I'm still cool with that too. You know, my mom, she's very Catholic. So there's a lot of fear there, you know, and just a lot of like kind of like rejection, and like we just don't talk about it. So understanding, you know, like the encouragement is that like, when you feel the need to control, like, and because things are uncertain, that's a very normal response. And you have your spirituality, like you're encouraged to look for spiritual practices to support you. If you share your new spiritual things with people and their reaction is that they need to control you, that's an indicator that they're uncomfortable with like what you're doing. And it's their responsibility to communicate that, you know, and also to work through that. Like, why are they uncomfortable? Are they uncomfortable because they expect you to be a certain way and to be predictable, and that makes them feel safe? Or are they uncomfortable because they don't understand? Do they have misconceptions? Like, you know, it's important that you don't take on other people's work. And I think that's a really tricky part of like coming into being a spiritual person, because I think early on in spirituality, for a lot of people, myself included, like when you learn how to heal yourself, you feel like you can teach everybody and that everybody should do it. And the hard thing is that like not everybody wants to heal themselves. Sometimes people don't believe that they can heal themselves. Sometimes people don't believe that there's anything to heal. Sometimes people don't know who they would be if they weren't in pain and suffering. And that's a hard thing to acknowledge, right? It doesn't make sense. But also, people's reactions to us, people's discomfort about things are a reflection of them, and they're not a reflection of us. So like, for example, I think maybe it was like last month, I did a reel and somebody had commented on the reel, and like energetically I didn't feel anything like negative about it, but the message was, you know, like, you seem like a really nice person, but like witchcraft is not the way, like Jesus is the only way. And so at first it was like, okay, I don't know how to respond to this, because I'm not going to say thank you, because I don't agree because I don't consider this witchcraft, because I am not a witch. But also like, I don't feel like Jesus is the only way, for me. Like maybe they are the only way for you. But also like, if you don't believe this, how did you come across this? Like, I mean, sure, the algorithm, but like, and also, why would you evangelize to someone and tell them like what they're doing is evil or wrong, and that your way is the only right way, right? So it's like there's a lot kind of that my brain was unpacking in the couple of seconds that I'm looking at this comment. And ultimately, like, the message is that like this person is not comfortable with what I'm doing, and they are putting the responsibility on me to regain their comfort, right? And so it's because they're saying like, you know, you seem nice, but like witchcraft is not the way. Jesus is the only way. And so it's like, okay, so your expectation, even though you haven't said it, it sounds like you would like me to stop doing these readings and to, you know, give my life to Jesus so that you can feel more comfortable. But we don't know each other. And why, what, huh? You know, and so I share all that because it's kind of weird and it doesn't make sense, right? I share all that to just serve as like a small example of like how tricky it is to realize like, okay, that's about you. This is not about me. Because I mean, my ego could be like, oh my gosh, like people don't like my readings. And it's like, that's true. And it's valid, you know. But also there's nothing for me to do, right? My ego might be like, well, I need to tell them that they shouldn't do this. And it's like, but why? Now I'm trying to change them for me to regain comfort. And it's like, now we're in this contest of like, your job is, you're responsible for my comfort and you're responsible for my comfort. It's like that weird Spider-Man meme. And like, it's just like this weird part of being human. So that's why I say all of that. I ramble through that to just say that like, that is a tricky part of like learning what it means to be a spiritual person. And the tricky part of navigating that, like when we make change, whether it's for spiritual reasons or not, like when we change who we are, it triggers people. It can trigger people. And like the things they feel about change and the things they feel about like, uncertainty, you know, and that it takes time to kind of figure out like what is mine to deal with and like what is yours to deal with, and like kind of understanding that there's some boundaries around that. Yeah. And ultimately that like you can always trust your gifts, you can trust yourself, right? So kind of returning to that intuition, that like when some of those control things come up, like tapping into your intuition, and even asking like, okay, I'm trying to control this situation. Like, what is it that I'm being invited to learn here? Or this person's trying to control me. What am I being invited to learn here? How do I trust myself? How do I trust my gifts in navigating this? So, group number 3, this has been your reading about the new season that you're entering. So I hope that you enjoyed it. I want to thank you for letting me read your cards, and also thank you for watching. If you're a subscriber, thank you for coming back. If you enjoyed this reading, I would love it if you would like, as well as comment. If you haven't subscribed, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. But I just want to say thank you for letting me read your cards. And I am wishing you a very, very blessed and an exciting new season. So I will see you next time. Bye. Hello, group number 4. So if you chose this selenite crystal, and the Gemini 6th house Uranus astro dice, this is your reading. So I have pulled cards for you from the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot, as well as a bunch of oracle cards. So let's look at what is coming towards you in this new season. Okay, so we have this Ace of Swords and Prosperity, which I feel like is the imagery. Oh, I can't reach. Sorry. I just love that when the imagery matches, because she's got her arm up, with this light, and then the sword is up. And so it feels like the universe is handing you this sword, and you're just like you're reaching up to grab it, or you're lifting it up. Like, it just feels like this new season, like you're ready for it, is really what it feels like. So Ace of Swords, aces are always new beginnings. Swords represent our thoughts, communication, mindset, really like air energy, and so like this Gemini here, Gemini is an air sign. Swords are associated with air signs. So you might be ready to take on like a new writing project. You might be ready to take on something new in like the communication field. Uranus rules the internet, social media. So yeah, digital communications, like online writing, social media, like these could all be kind of clues as to like what's coming for you in this new season. But whatever it is that you choose to do, there's going to be prosperity around it. I think that you will know what it is when it comes to you. I think that sometimes with like the aces, it's the signal of a new beginning for something. And the sword kind of is a clue as to like what this new thing is. But aces, like I said, are always new beginnings. Excuse me. Sorry, I don't know what's going on with my voice. Maybe this is not for me. Maybe the voice thing is something for you. Like you might be coming out of a time when you were hesitant to use your voice. You didn't know how to use your voice. You are finding your voice. Like in this new season, you might be really learning the power of your voice, learning how to use your voice, learning how much power you have. But what I was saying before is with aces, sometimes it can be a little bit tricky. Not tricky, like there can be some apprehension around ace energy, because the thing that comes up is like, what if I miss it, right? Because like the universe doesn't literally hand us something like there's not going to be like a sword floating in the sky that you reach up and grab, or maybe there is, I don't know, maybe like my experience with aces, that's not how it's ever really worked. There hasn't been like a giant hand in the sky that comes out. But I'm saying all that to say that you will not miss this. Like this is like this blessing that is coming for you, this new beginning that's coming for you. Like you're not going to be in the wrong place at the wrong time and miss it. Excuse me. It's coming to you, and you will know what it is when it gets to you. And also the thing that I'm getting is it's not just one thing, right? It's not necessarily going to be that like, oh, okay, I'm going to start, I don't know, I'm going to start writing a blog. And like, that's all I'm going to do. And that's, like, even if that feels aligned that you're supposed to start a blog, like, follow that feeling of alignment, but know that like, that's not just it. There's going to be something else that comes and something else. It's like, it feels like, with this prosperity card, like how there's all these little coins coming off of, what her arm is like she's holding up, right? So it's not just like there's, and even this Ace of Swords is the same. The leaves are falling off of this kind of piece of laurel, right? That it's like there's small things that are going to be coming off of this one kind of big step, big message, big beginning. Yeah. There's going to be like a ripple effect. Like the ripple is wide reaching, if that makes sense. So that's the new thing that's coming towards you. A new beginning, and prosperity, which is awesome. Like what? Yes. I like it. Next we have, what are you being asked to release? Got Page of Wands and, okay, surrender your ego, and it is in reverse. Interesting. Okay, so Page of Wands, the pages are messengers. Like it's, the pages bring a messenger. The pages can be assistants. The pages can even be psychic, like mediums, like channels, because that's a message like from spirit. And so this page is letting you know that there is action that you need to take around surrendering your ego. And so the message of this card is cultivate gratitude, be of service to others, and come from your heart. A big ego can work against you, but humility will further your goals. So this action you're being encouraged to take, to surrender the way that you used to do things to kind of feed your ego, I feel like is pivotal to the success and the prosperity of this. So if you are one of those people that like hold the belief that you have to do everything yourself or else it won't be done right, like that can be a way that you're being invited to surrender your ego, because that's very much like the ego saying like, well, we're the only ones that can do it right, nobody else can do it. And it's like, okay, if you possess the skills and you know exactly how to do it the best way, be of service to others and teach someone else how to do it, and like guide someone else to learn how to do it, and like help them to improve as they're learning. I feel like a lot of this surrender the ego will look for you like the beliefs you hold or the actions that you take that have kind of put you in this mindset of like other people being like not capable and you being the only one that can do it. Because I feel like the actions of your ego have been to try to keep you isolated. And for you to succeed and for you to grow in this next chapter, there needs to be things around you. Like there's not just one thing, right? And like you are only one person. We're all only one person. So we're only capable of so much. And so it's kind of, it's like the African proverb, if you want to get there fast, go alone. But if you want to get there safe, then go together. And so like this, I feel like this is very much like you're being invited to release the actions that kept you isolated in how you worked and how you lived in the last season, because like your next season requires that you partner somehow. And so this partnering could potentially be only with the universe, because the ego really is about separation, and the ego can keep us separated from God's source spirit by saying like, I'm the only one, I'm the best authority, I know best, I don't need to believe this. So that partnering can be like with God's source spirit, but also it feels like, even if you're, let's say you're like an entrepreneur and you're a business of one, like you're going to be needing to rely on the support and community of the people that you are like offering your services to, right? That like you're like, you can tell your customers that you're the only one that knows how to do this and you're the best, but it's like if they can feel like that really kind of ego stuff with you, like it feels almost like the ego is preventing you from this prosperity, right? So like if you are selling a product, let's say, and someone, I don't know, someone lets you know that like they received it and it just doesn't work or it's defective, like your ego might be like, well, you don't know how to use it. You don't know what you're doing. That's not my fault. I can't control what the mail carrier does. And that's definitely like not in service of other people, right? Because like, why are you selling a product if you don't want to like help people or be of service? But also like that is probably going to get, like, if you respond that way, you're probably going to get a bad review. People are not going to want to purchase things from you in the future, versus if you are in more of like a collaborative, environment, and you ask them like, okay, well, what happened to the product? And maybe like this piece fell off, and it's like, oh, okay. Like, well, if you would like me to mail you a whole new one, I can, or if you would like for me to like, just let you know how to repair it, I can do that. Let me know whichever one helps for you. And maybe the piece that fell off is like superficial. They're like, oh yeah, like, can you just tell me how to put it back on? It's like, yeah, you could just use a little bit of super glue or whatever. Or they might be like, yeah, can you send me a new one? Sure, absolutely, I can, and then maybe you ask them like, can I provide you with a return label? Can you just send me back the one that's broken so I can fix it and resell it? Sure, absolutely, totally understand. So it feels like if you choose not to take action to make the changes to surrender your ego, to like release the things that keep your ego in control of your life, like it's really gonna hinder and limit like the progress and the prosperity that you're able to make. And next we have how your guides and angels are going to be supporting you. Sorry, I'm looking at this selenite card with like the cleanliness, light, and peace. That the ego's not focused on like peace and harmony. So I think if you're kind of unsure of like what the ego things are that you need to release, like if you can look at the areas of your life where like you struggle to have like peace and harmony, if you're like, because it feels like, sorry, like the feeling that I'm getting is that like there are certain egoic things that people know are ego, and then there's other things that like it feels like it feels like this card, there's some confusion about what ego is. So like if you, let's say that you like overwork, that you're like a workaholic because you want to be seen as like the hardest worker where you're at, but like you're not getting paid extra for like working more, like you just want to be able to tell everybody that you're the hardest worker, like that's very ego based, because essentially what you're doing is you're expending time and energy that you're not properly compensated for, just so that you can tell people that you did more, that you were better than them. Like that's very much rooted in the ego, like from kind of a less egoic, like a more balanced perspective, like your time and energy is worth something. So for you to like give that away for free to a company that should be compensating you for it because they compensate you for your other time, like that doesn't make sense, right? Like that doesn't lend to like peace and harmony in your life, because like if you're overworking yourself, like you're out of harmony with your body, with your own schedule, like you're probably tired, you're out of harmony with like your bank account because you're doing work for free. Why? Because your ego says like that we need to prove that we're better or more valuable or whatever. So I hope that helps. Like I felt like I could feel it wasn't necessarily like resistance, but it felt like confusion, you know, where it felt like, well, like I'm a humble person and like I am grateful and like I know how to be of service to others. And so it's like I don't like the thing I was picking up was like I don't understand what I'm supposed to be surrendering. Like my ego isn't in charge of things. And so I hope that last example helped, because like just like you, I wouldn't consider myself like an egoic person, but there was a time that like me being seen as like the hardest working person, or like being seen as like working harder than this other person or those other people or that other group was very important to me. And that's very ego driven, because like I didn't get paid for working overtime, and also like it didn't help. Like it wasn't that there was a project that needed to be done, it wasn't that we were behind on a schedule. Like it wasn't any of those things. It was like I just wanted to do it because it made me feel better than other people. But it was really like my ego wasting my time and energy, which is all limited, you know? So it's like your ego is not your amigo. Also, sometimes like the ego just doesn't make any sense. Okay, but next we have messages from your guides and angels and how they're supporting you. So you have this King of Wands, Krishna, Cordelia, and study and learning. Okay, so this King of Wands, we have this Page of Wands here. You can see they have like similar imagery with like the salamander on the clothing, on the coat. The King of Wands is an energy of really making like decisive, intentional, taking decisive and intentional action. You know, it feels kind of like looking at the long game, evaluating like the short game, like it feels like a very balanced energy, right? Like just because we can do this right now, can we sustain it for the long term? Do we want to sustain it for the long term? What is the benefit of doing this versus not doing it? What is the benefit of doing this instead of this? Can we do both? Like there's a lot of consideration before taking action. And it's like the Wands cards are about action instead of necessarily like thought, but it's very like the King of Wands has a lot of experience, and so it doesn't take him a long time to like think through things. It's almost like he references experiences that he's been in before, like to make these decisions, but it's intentional versus impulsive. I hope that makes sense. Like there's a level of self-trust with the King of Wands that like he knows that he knows how to make decisions. He knows that he's in a position of authority to make those decisions, and he also knows that he has the capability to implement whatever is decided on. And so it feels like this energy is coming up from your guides almost as a way of letting you know that like in this next season, like you have all the tools and experience that you need to make whatever decisions come up, even if it feels kind of fast. Like even if it feels like it wasn't like part of the plan. So we've got this Krishna card with devotion, and the message is trust your spiritual guidance. Your commitment has been recognized. You are loved unconditionally. I was going to say your commitment has been reorganized. It's kind of interesting, but your commitment has been recognized. Okay. With this devotion, I feel like devotion's a really kind of peculiar energy word. Because like a lot of times like the word devotion, it's in the connotation of religion or love and partnership, right? To be devoted to something. But the card mentions commitment, right? And it feels like in this new season that you're coming into, like you're committing yourself to a new a new way of life. Like I feel like this season that you're coming into, like this is like a new like era for you. And I don't feel like you're not going to get that until you're quite a way into it. Like you're going to reflect back on it and be like, whoa, I'm in a totally new era of my life. Like I'm not in a new chapter. Like this is a whole new book. Like this is a really big change. But while you're in the change, it doesn't feel like that. You're just kind of taking one step at a time. But your guides are encouraging you to be intentional around what it is that you commit to, and like to trust your intuition, to trust them. That my ear just did something really weird. Like it kind of felt like my ear popped, but it didn't. So it feels like that to me feels like learning how to listen in a little bit different way. With this Ace of Swords about communication, like really listening and hearing things before you commit is how it feels. Listening to yourself as well, trusting yourself, listening to yourself. So next we have Cordelia with Go Outside. You have been indoors too long. Go outside and get some fresh air. So in the times that you feel like maybe you need a little bit of extra support, doing some grounding, going outside is a great way for you to support yourself, especially if there's like some stress that comes up. Like being out in nature, I think is going to be really supportive for you. And then studying and learning. And the message is, thank you, angels, for allowing me to see that every day is a learning day. So if you are at a point in your new season, somewhere in the new season where you feel like you don't know the things that you need to know, you can take the time to kind of learn those things, but also understanding that like part of this new season is going to be learning, right? Because like I said, you're in a whole new era. So it's like you're at a place that you've never been to before. And so it's like each day it's another lesson. It's like another school day, another learning day. So in the times that you feel like you don't know what you're doing, or you don't feel like you know enough to do it, like you're learning as you go, so in the times that you feel uncertain and you feel like you're learning as you go, like that's your message that you're right where you need to be. And so lastly, we have cards for encouragement for when you're moving from the past to the present. So we've got this Knight of Swords card. And then we have, I am surrounded by angels. Yes, you are. Yes, you are, my friend. This Knight of Swords card moves really, really quickly. So it kind of feels like that's why it feels like you don't realize that you're entering a new era, because things are happening so fast, right? That it's like when this new season begins, like you'll know that it's beginning, but like you won't realize the magnitude of it because it's happening so fast, right? Because you're just kind of like, you're just learning and doing and going and trusting and figuring out what to commit and like releasing things. But it almost feels like there needs to be like a steady gallop, kind of a run. Like it needs to happen quickly, because like with the swords cards, like it's associated with the mind. And it almost feels like if you weren't moving quickly enough, then your mind, your ego would create some barriers, would start to like self-sabotage. It's weird. It's almost like things moving fast is a way that the universe is protecting you from your ego, because the ego, I feel like even with this card, like looking at him, He's really studying this kind of bud on this wand. And he's not moving, he's just like staring at it. And so it almost feels like, because this came out with like what you need to release, that you can get into this like overthinking, analysis paralysis kind of energy habit, and that keeps you from moving forward, that keeps you stuck, right? Because we have these two cards that like they're not moving, and like they're not taking action, which is what the guidance is. And so I feel like that's why this needs to happen so fast, so that you don't get stuck and stopped by the ego. And of course, like, I'm surrounded by my angels. I'm surrounded by angels. Yes, you are. So in the times that you feel like you need extra support, if you're not sure if something is your ego or if it needs to be released, call on your angels. In the times that things feel like they're moving really fast, if you need for them to slow down, if you're worried, if it's just kind of chaotic, like, definitely call on your angels for support. Spend some time outside. Definitely trust your guidance, trust your capabilities. Yeah. And just know that you are supported. Like, you have lots of support around you. So, and that this is like a big shift, right? So if you have those moments where you're like, this is bananas, like, what is happening? Like, this isn't real. I don't know how to do this. Like, definitely call on your angels. Like, they're all around you and they can't wait to help you. Yeah. So group number 4, this has been your reading about entering a new season. If you enjoyed the reading, I would love it if you would like and subscribe. If you've already subscribed, thank you so much for coming back to watch this video. Thank you for letting me read your cards as well. I greatly appreciate you guys spending your time and energy here with me. So I just want to say thank you for that. And yeah, I'm wishing you so many blessings and like really so much excitement in this new season that you're entering. And I will see you next time. Bye.